Why don't we start with our number 10s for our best songs of 2018? I'll go first. Salt in the Wound by Boy Genius. I also, cheated a little bit with this, and I said Your Dog by Soccer Mommy, but I talked about Soccer Mommy enough in my best album list. Boy Genius, Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, and Julian Baker. We reviewed them recently. But Salt in the Wound off their EP, self-titled EP, is probably the song that sounds most like a blended, cohesive effort. We talked about how on each of those tracks, they each had their own flair from the individual artist who kind of was leading it. And Salt in the Wound is a moving piece that just really blends all three of their strengths together beautifully in this stirring, swelling, really overwhelming track that then fades out really beautifully. Definitely a song that I think about quite a bit, and I feel really happy that they came together to make that song, because it's something I would probably be listening to for years. What was your number 10?
Yeah, my number 10 is Just a Stranger by Kali Uchis featuring Steve Lacy, produced by Ramil from Brockhampton.
Mm-hmm.
And Kali Uchis' Isolation, an album that also is an honorable mention for me. But I think that's a song that I went back to the most, just because I think it's just a really fun song. I think Steve Lacy's feature is great. It's very infectious chorus. And I really like Kali Uchis as a person like an alternative pop space. And yeah, this is just the song I went back to the most. So I wanted to get her on one of the lists somehow, and this is what I went with.
I was wondering when she was going to come up, because I knew that you really enjoyed that record. Yeah, she's great. Kali Uchis is going to be a star for sure. Number 9 on my list, Eamon Dunes, Blue Rose. We didn't review this one either. Freedom came out back in they released the deluxe edition recently, but it came out back, I believe, earlier in the year. It's back in March, so I thought. And this actually came up through Spotify. Like, I was just listening to some alternative artists, and whatever I had queued up finished, and they were playing random songs, and Blue Rose came on, and I was like, oh shit, this is fucking hypnotic and dancey. And I went back and listened to the album. The whole album, Freedom, is great, and it would have been in my probably top 20 if we had made a list. It was on my honorable mention, but I thought I'd talk about it now. Damon McMahon is this alternative rock artist from Brooklyn who's made 5 albums and didn't really hit until Freedom came out this year. And the whole album is great, but Blue Rose specifically is just so it just sucks you in. You feel like you're just in a different world, like you're on a safari or something throughout. And his vocals are haunting and beautiful. And if you haven't checked out Eamon Dunes, I highly recommend it, but especially start with Blue Rose. And if that doesn't suck you in, I might have to check to see if you have a pulse. Number 9 for you, Dave.
Number 9 for me is Tanya by Brockhampton. A song that actually took a while to grow on me when I first heard it as a single, and they performed it on Fallon too. And once I understood that it was just going to be a different kind of song than what they had on the Saturation trilogy, I had a more open mind. And that's how I feel about Iridescence in general. But I think Tanya is probably one of the highlights for me. I know you literally like San Marcos, but think about these songs in the same way. Brockhampton had a really difficult year or so, personally, as a band. And this is a song of them really just airing that out on song about how they've been feeling. And there's a reason they're pretty down throughout the song. Mm-hmm. But I think Kevin, much like on his Wait verse, really gets into the shit on Tanya. Yeah. And I think this is probably the song that'll last the longest for me, because the first song, New Orleans, that's a great Brockhampton banger. Could have picked that, but I think Tanya, there's just more heft to it, more weight.
Yeah, emotional weight. So
that's why I went with it.
Number 8 for me was If You Know, You Know by Pusha T. We talked about it enough, but if it's not on your list, you missed, boy. Why don't we move on to number 7? Because I don't know if we need to talk anymore about Pusha. We give him enough praise. What's your number 7, Dave?
Well, my number 8 is Rotation 112 by J-Rock.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you didn't say your number 8.
No, it's all good. Again, this is similar to my thoughts on Redemption as a whole. I thought about, do I need to put J-Rock on both lists? And then I was like, honestly, personally, I just really like this song. And I think J-Rock just fucking kills it. It's a great song. And that's why I went with it. I mean, I was entertaining a lot of things. I was entertaining like Nicki Minaj's Barbie Dreams here. I was entertaining LMF by Smino. Heck, I even thought about Rap Devil by MGK. But I
Mhm.
went with a song that I know I listened to more than those, which is one of these rock songs. Fucking on the end of the day, sometimes it's just really simple, and that's
Mhm.
that's why I
Yeah.
have J Rock on both lists.
Yeah. Almost like trust your instincts on that. Um, it's funny for me to look at my number 8 and my number 7 because they're so opposite. If you know, is this like is like slowly builds up to this fucking banger, and then number 7 is Golden Hour, which I was just talking about with Kacey Musgraves. But it's like I think the description I wrote is it literally makes me feel like I'm sitting on a porch like drinking a beer while like the sun goes down. It's just really a beautiful song. And Kacey Musgraves had so many different notes on that album, like we talked about, but that's the one I come back to the most. I think I enjoy the music that makes me feel like I'm just chilling out. Um, I mean, she's a master. So definitely check that out. What was your number 7, Dave?
Yeah, my number 7 is "Breathin'" by Ariana Grande. And initially, I was like, I'll probably have Sweetener on the album list, and then it got booted out. But I
Mhm.
still think that's the best pure pop album we've had this year. I think the reason it was so exciting, or is so exciting, is because this is like the first time Ari stopped trying to show you how great of a singer she was. She finally acknowledged that she has those pipes. She doesn't need to constantly make that be all that's it about. I think a song like Breathe which especially in the beginning, especially like in the hooks on this, it's more subdued, especially for her past standards. But I also actually went back. I went to this song a lot after Mac Miller died, funny enough.
Hmm.
And I really like the message. I know a lot of people like it for other reasons. Similar though, I think it's a song that can be quite effective and personal, and that's why I went with this one. But I think there's a lot of good songs you could have picked from the Ari record, but I went with Breathing 'cause that's the one I personally listen to the most.
That's a really inspired choice. And I'm surprised by it, but that was one of the highlights off that album, which I didn't love, but I thought that was one of the better songs. Number 6 for me. So you talked about Tanya, and San Marcos is probably my favorite song off the Brockhampton album. But 1999 Wildfire Dog, that's the best Brockhampton song of the year. And
Not on an album.
anytime, not on the album, and anytime you can give me Brockhampton infused with Outkast,
Yeah.
and I'm just fucking bopping to it, and I feel like I'm like listening to Aquamini, like Aquemini. I know I said it wrong. I
Gemini,
say
Jesus.
Aquamini. Yeah, I've always said Aquamini. I know it's Aquemini. I don't give a fuck. I like to say it the way I say it. Dude, it's so fucking fun. Like that song. I think about like the sirens in that in the beginning. Like, woo woo. Like it's just fire, dude.
Yeah.
Like.
Joba has like a really fun verse, really off the wall, which is what you kind of expect from him. But yeah,
Mhm.
Kevin
Yeah.
just kills it as an doing Andre,
Yeah.
and Kevin shows a lot of other vocal range on Iridescence, but we never really
Hmm.
sound like he sounded on Wildfire. Yeah, that's a great pick. You know, I'm surprised you didn't go with like Love It If You Made It because that's like Billy Joel, and this is like Outcast. I thought you'd like those kind of comps.
Well, anytime you can be saying, "I'd love it if we made it, Dave," and there's some fucking line in there that I was reading today. I was reading through the lyrics and I was like, "Oh God, this is so fake heavy. It's crazy." Um, what's number 6 on your list? Let's just
Six
fucking
for
keep going.
me is Stack That Cheese by Lupe Fiasco featuring Nikki Jean off Drogas Wave.
Shout out
And
Drogas Wave.
an album that we reviewed. That review was very popular on our YouTube channel, so check that out. But no, I think Stat That Cheese was the immediate highlight of that very long Lupe record for one reason. It was because it was the fucking sequel to Hip Hop Saved My Life, one of the best Lupe songs of all time.
Hmm.
And the fact that he made the sequel song like over 10 years later and he just picks it back up into that story. It's a conceptual song that also sounds great that you can listen to just as a song. You don't actually have to listen to the part, but the storytelling is really cool and it's like updated for 2018 like themes and like norms, but still feels like a sequel song. I fucking
Mhm.
love it. I think it's a great banger, but also it's a really cool idea that I was happy to see happen.
Yeah, Drogas Wave just in general is we talked about it and reviewed it, so check that out. But really solid, if not a very long album. But yeah, Stack That Cheese it fucking bumps, and it's just so much fun to listen to. Um, Great pick. Number 5 for me. We're staying hip hop. Ghost Town by Kanye West. Um, Yay was a record that was very up and down, and I listened to it quite a bit. I'm a big Kanye fan. I really think he's a musical genius. I hope he doesn't hear that. He doesn't need his ego boosted anymore. But um, Ghost Town is the most triumphant, if not nonsensical, song of the year. I mean, I don't know if Kanye understands how bleeding works and how burning works, but OVO shake on this is a
Oh
fucking
seven oh.
070. OVO is fucking YouTube. I'm killing it so far. Um, 070 shake on this is just phenomenal, and really that I think when we talked about our XXL picks, I was like, she's got to be in consideration because of how strong she was on that. And just the whole, Cuddy's fantastic in that as well. Just really strong effort and one of the catchiest lines too. And it really just brings you back to wanting to be a kid. And they also earthed some great memes from that, like
Right.
just overall a great song. You're number 5, Dave.
Yeah, my number 5 is also something we mentioned briefly before, High Horse by Kacey Musgraves.
Mm.
Uh, Again, a song I never expected to really dig a Kacey Musgraves song. Like I knew that she was critically liked country artist that was more left of center in terms of country standards, but I never expected like a fucking modern disco track, let
Right.
alone one that also banks.
Hmm.
And it's a song that again has a good message, and you can listen to it for that if you want, or you can just dance to the song and have a good time with it. So I think High Horse is it's funny because like you mentioned, there's other picks, and I'm seeing Space Cowboy on a lot of lists too. But I think this is probably the standout for me just because you can listen to it for any occasion.
Yeah, it's a really fun song. I'm gonna have a another disco track from a female artist later on, so I only wanted to put one
I
disco
see.
song on here.
Fair.
My number 4, keeping it moving. I Like It by Cardi B featuring Bad Bunny and J Balvin. I like this song so much. I named one of my fantasy football teams after it. I
That's
mean,
right.
it's a catchy fucking song. Cardi is her most Cardi on that. She's swaggerful. She's hypnotic. She's killing it. And then you have the Latin infused sound, and this is probably the most catchy and infectious song of the year. And I find myself thinking about it all the time just because I can't get it out of my fucking head. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I think I like what's so cool about I Like It is that, I mean, as we've known, Cardi has help with her music. She doesn't write everything, probably even most things, right? But this is a song that Atlantic as a label really put together. They picked out this sample, they picked out
Mhm.
Balvin and Bunny, and obviously Cardi probably had help writing. But it's a perfect example of when the industry system works because this song works so fucking well.
So well.
And again, the sample is great. It's still very tasteful. And like you said, Cardi is such an inspired performer on this. I
Hmm.
think my favorite line is probably at the right at the end of that verse. It's he's so handsome, what's his name? Like it's the best part in
Yep.
my opinion. But no, that's again, it's one of the most popular songs of the year, but it's also on almost all the top 10 lists for good reason. It's both very popular and very good. So you like to see that.
Yeah. It's a really, really great song. You're number 4.
My number 4 is Reborn by Kitsy Ghost,
Mm.
Kanye and Cudi. Mentioned it before. I think that second Kanye verse is like top tier. One of the best verses he's released since Twisted Fantasy, to be honest. So,
Hmm.
and I like Cudi on that too. So that was my pick. I know, like you were bigger on Ghost Town among all else from Ye this year, but I think Reborn was the standout for me from all that work.
Yeah, it's funny as I'm starting to get together my movie list. I think I keep going back to like, what am I just like having the best time listening to? You know, and like I think Mission Impossible Fallout's gonna be really high on my movie list for that reason, and that's the reason that Ghost Town was so high on my. It's just it's a fun song to listen to that really just like catches me the right way. But Reborn, I mean, if you can get classic Kanye or at least like some piece of classic Kanye back, it's a worthy pick. Number three for me, I talked about this album, Wide Awake, the song that the album is named after. Um, this starts off with congos, bongos. It sounds like they're like in a street in Latin America, and then this killer bass line comes in that if you listen to it, it's stuck in your head all day, and you feel like you're just moving through life with that bass line in your head. It's a really dancey and fun song, and I have an album which I just talked about being really, really great. This is probably the high point for me. So definitely check out Wide Awake by Parquet Courts. Your number three, Mr. Martinson.
My number three, Feels Like Summer, Vince Staples, Ty Dolla Sign, the first track on FM. But this is a song that I restarted, I think, 3 times before I kept listening to the rest of FM.
Mhm.
Um, it was just perfect West Coast Vince. Ty Dolla Sign is used just enough, the best way possible. And yeah, and I must say, I think it's fantastic. Fantastic fucking G Funk adjacent West Coast fucking gang rap.
Yeah, it's a great song. And anytime you immediately go back to listen to a song again, you know it's just like it's a heater for you. And I did that actually with this next song, which came in at number two for me, Mitski, Nobody. This was the disco track I was alluding to. I mean, this
Yep.
is disco carnival infused, piano driven Mitski at her best. And for an album which we thought was pretty good, but Be the Cowboy kind of I think fell below our expectations. It's still a really solid album, but just not where we thought Mitski could pull off. Nobody though is a song that um, it drives you in this like swirl of emotion in your mind, and it brings, like I said, this carnival disco feel to a song about real loneliness and despair in a way. And it's really just it's a masterclass from Mitski, and it really does what she does best is write these really meaningful, clever lyrics and pit it with this unique music. So Nobody, my number two. Did you have it on your list, or did it just miss the mark?
I
I know
did
you
not.
like this one.
Yeah, I do. That's a song that's also in a lot of lists across the board. Like I
Hmm.
like it. I think it's the clear highlight from the Mitski album.
Definitely. All right, you number one, Dave.
No, my number two.
Number two.
Uh,
Sorry.
my number two is Self Care by Mac Miller, which is funny because when we reviewed Swimming at the time, I don't feel like I didn't talk about this song that much. I was talking about other stuff like Ladders and 2009.
Hmm.
What's the use?
Yep.
Right? That's the one we have in the playlist. But Self Care, I realized, was the song I was actually going to be going back to the most. I think, for one, it kind of has like a weird rhythm to it that's unlike other Mac songs. But I think also happens to be the lyrical content, what he's actually talking
Hmm.
about, given what actually happened to Mac. I think it's both really sad. Like sometimes I have a hard time listening to this song, and I was like, I'll
Hmm.
stop. But this is the one that sat with me the most, and I actually probably would pair this with Breathing a lot in terms of my personal listening. So, yeah, I think it's. I mean, shit. It was on. They had this on Rap Caviar for a long time, and Mac
Hmm.
obviously hasn't really been a Rap Caviar artist for a while. But that was a song they highlighted, and I think even though it's a heavier song, and even though his rapping is not as energetic as he is at other times, I think the beat really moves and is really cool. And also that hook he does, the switch the time zones. What do I know? Like I think that's actually
Hmm.
really listenable if you're just trying to listen to it strictly for Sonics. But yeah, it's a heavy song, but that's my
Hmm.
number two.
Damn. R.I.P. Mac, dude. What a fucking loss.
Hmm.
2018, not been the best year for a lot of different reasons, but musically it's been great. What was your number one song of the year, though?
My number one song was, I believe it was my number two most played song on Spotify this year, which I also use YouTube and download songs a lot. So that's not my only metric, but on Spotify, my number two song, my number one for 2018 is Screwed, Janelle Monáe featuring Zoe Kravitz. And this is that song. I definitely restarted this during the Dirty Computer listen. And I kept going back to this because I think this song is just so fucking fun. I
Yeah.
honestly feel about it the way you feel about it. I like it, where it's just I think everybody kills. I think Zoe Kravitz has really cool background vocals that like they're like mixed just right. So she's like really just right
Mhm.
behind Janelle when they're
Yeah.
both singing together. And it's a fun hook. Again, like Pink, like other songs on this great album, there are lots of themes going on, and you can dig into those and listen to those if you want to, or you can just listen to the song as its own, have fun with it because it's
Mhm.
fucking really fun to listen to. So that's my number one.
Yeah, man. That it starts off just from that guitar hook in the beginning. You're just like, oh shit, this is it's like fucking
Yep.
like bubble gum to you, and then you just in for the ride. My number one, the reason I asked you because I thought we were gonna have the same one. This is America by Donald Glover. Ended up being my number one song for the year. And
Interesting.
last year, when I mentioned my number one song of the year was Bodak Yellow, I gave it for similar reasons. This is I thought that culturally it had one of the biggest impacts. And This is America, I think, is not only a song that I found very catchy and interesting to listen to, and I thought was very good, but I thought the themes were very applicable to the year. Just talking about how it's been a difficult year for a lot of people, and the how it talks about the plight of Black people in America is very meaningful for this time. But that mixed with the music video, and we talked about Atlanta last week and how that was a cultural making show. This is the same thing. Where this really enveloped the culture when it came out. What in like July or June around
Yeah.
there, and people were just watching it and talking about it, and it really captured a moment. I think for that reason, more than almost any other song, this is my song of the year. What are your thoughts on that though?
Yeah, my thing is, I think This Is America is the best music video of the year, but I think that's
Mhm.
just a song without the visual component. It's not quite as strong.
That's a fair take for sure.
Doesn't mean you can't like it. I still think the song's fun to listen to, but the added nuance and message of the video or lack thereof, remember, he never claimed to have a message for it, but you don't get much of any of that without the video. But I think it's actually very unique in that regard because we don't have a lot of songs that are silver line in the video to tell the rest of the story like this, you know?
Hmm.
Um, but no, it's still a nice pick. I saw the song live in September, and it was still really good, really fun. But yeah, I would say without the video component, it was tough for me to squeeze it on here.
I think that's a really strong take. One thing I just find interesting is the song that probably was the song of the year was Mo Bamba, but it was a 2017 track. Like
Not
that
just
Second
that,
Life.
a June 2017 track. Shit's
Right.
fucking old. And
And
yes, it took over and percolated and peaked at like number 6 in the middle of this year. No doubt about that. The video came out in January, but the song was so underground for so long, I just couldn't put it on my list. And in the past, I would give people shit for putting Redbone and Bad and Bougie on lists a year later.
mm,
So I couldn't do that now with Mobamba, you know?
right.
But that was my number one most played song on Spotify. And I think in terms of songs that captured this year, it's right there with I Like It. You know, it wasn't
Hmm.
quite as popular, obviously, globally as I Like It. But in terms of, I think here in the US, domestically, clubs, parties, sporting
Hmm.
events, colleges. The song was just fucking everywhere. And I mean, for good reason. We talked about it before, but the chants, the just the energy of the song is both perfect for live shows, but also perfect for events. So
Hmm.
it's gonna be on other people's lists. I've already seen it around there, but I couldn't actually go with it because it's a little old already.
Yeah, for real. Before we wrap up, any songs that didn't make your list that you wanted to shout out real quick?
Yeah, I mentioned a few: Cloud Cobain,
Yep.
LMF, Barbie Dreams. I also really like "Never Say Die" by Churches. I really liked "No Mistakes" off Yay with Charlie
Hmm.
Wilson. Really like "Nice for What" Drake. I liked all his big hits, but I thought "Nice for What" was the best one. I like "Wu Tang Forever" from Logic and literally all of Wu Tang
Yeah.
Clan. I thought that song banged. Um, and then I think my number one banger, when I tried to get it on here, I was maybe taking off J Rock, but I decided to keep it off, is Reboot, sung by Kami featuring Chance the
Hmm.
Rapper and Joy Perp, all Chicago song. I think that is just my favorite, just straight ignorant banger of the year. So I almost got it on there. I also really liked Where the Bag At by City Girls. I love listening to women uh, be sexual and, take back misogyny and rap, So
Yeah.
I really respect them for that. And of course, they had a big year with the Drake
Mhm.
cosign. And then lastly, I also almost had this on my list, but Electricity by Silk City and Dua Lipa, I
Mm.
thought was a really fun dance song. I'm a big Dua Lipa fan. She was on my album list last year, but I
Yep.
think actually, for an off year for her, with no album, it was a really strong feature. And I really like that song. And I mentioned the Charlie Puth bops. I almost got one on here, but I was like, I kind of think about those like 5 Charlie Puth songs the same way, so I decided to keep them all off. But shout
I
out fucking
just love
Puth,
how
man.
you stand Charlie Puth, man. That's my favorite part of the podcast now. I hope you bring him up every single time. Um, yeah, and so a couple that I talked about before, like "Fun" by Vince Staples, I had a hard time leaving off. "Mr. Tillman" by Father John Misty, I thought was
Yep.
the strongest track there. "Anywhere" by Anderson .Paak featuring Snoop Dogg. But then a couple that I didn't talk about, "Kaytranada's Chances" featuring
Yes.
Shay Leah.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about how this reminded us a lot of Aluna George, and it's just a fucking great song. I can't wait for another Kaytranada album.
Yep.
Um, but a couple others, "Morning" by Francis and the Lights, which another funny conversation we had. How the fuck did Francis and the Lights come out for this year? I mean, technically it was very end of last year, but because
Yeah.
of the cycle, we still counted for this year. But the number one song I had a hard time leaving off, "Boot Up" by LMI. I mean, you want to talk about just like poppy fun goodness, like "Ba Ba Boot Up." It's so
Mm-hmm.
fucking catchy.
Song of the summer.
Yeah, that fucking love that song. And just last shout out, I mentioned the Dirty Projectors before. It's a lifestyle, like gets caught in my brain very
Sure.
easily and played over and
Mm-hmm.
over. So one of my favorites from that album. But I think that wraps it up. A great fucking year in music. We didn't even talk about Beyonce and Jay-Z who dropped an album together.
No, I saw Ape Show was on a lot of lists. Fuck.
Mhm.
I also considered The Story of Adidon by Pusha T.
Yeah,
Pretty worthy.
like
I mean, you mentioned This Is America in terms of cultural footprint, talking points.
mhm.
That was right there. And lastly, 1985 by J. Cole. I really like that song too.
Yeah, we didn't mention Drake. We didn't mention the 1975. All artists and that are gonna have songs and their albums or however you want to call their projects in the top 50, top 10s. So there's a lot of good music this year. And we hope that you take our recommendations and try to check it out and find some new music that feels right for you. But we also want to hear what your top 10s of the year were, your best albums and your best songs. So tweet at the pod at Nowstalgia Pod. Leave a comment on our YouTube videos. Let us know what we should be listening to or what we got wrong or what we got right. Give us some positive feedback as well. Yeah, and give us that rating review on iTunes. Next week, we're going to be looking at trends of the year, superlatives as well. So if you have any superlatives you want us to get to or any suggestions, we will take it into account.